Hello, everyone. Dave Landry here from DaveLandry.com. This is Trading Simplified. So, what are we going to talk about? Well, I want to continue my discussion. Hopefully, each week I'll be able to continue to do this. My discussion on if I can do it, so can you. Everything I do, as you know, is fully disclosed, no special indicators. In fact, I actually give you all my indicators. I have a mystery chart, and then I'm going to touch upon briefly where the money is, and that'll make sense in a few minutes. This week I want to focus mostly on profit centers. I want to touch upon what a profit center is, the dangers and pitfalls of profit centers, and more specifically, hunting and trading hot altcoins. As I've said before, I use a lot of tools in my business, and the good folks over at StockCharts.com have been very accommodating for my needs. And now they've added in 150 altcoins, as you know or may know, and that was inspired a bit by me bugging them. Housekeeping, I do take requests. So if there's something you want me to cover, please let me know. It makes my job a lot easier. If it does not fit within this venue, this time slot venue, which has certain parameters, I can cover it in my Thursday show, which I do every Thursday night, 6 Central, 7 Eastern PM. And that's a little bit more freer format, so I can cover more there. So feel free to shoot me some requests. You can reach me at DaveLandry.com/contact if there's something you do want covered, and DaveLandry.com/StockCharts if you want the slides from this presentation, all 3 of my books, and PDF format, and a bunch of other stuff to get to know me for free. All right, let's talk about this week's mystery chart and the methodology in action. Now, this was a stock that I bought with the buy at B pattern, and I think the last time I did a show, I talked about the buy at B pattern and IPOs. So if you go in and look at prior shows, you might be able to figure out what this mystery chart is. Hint, hint. Now, I did get stopped out on this one at a loss on most of my shares. I did have one account where I was able to hold on to some, probably because I had the tighter stop in my more active account, and after that was hit, by the time I got over to my cash account, and more than likely the market will reverse a little bit. Anyway, long story endless, nice little uptrend in this IPO, followed by a nice deep pullback. So this is a recommendation for today, and today is May 4th, 2021. And if it doesn't trigger today, then it will likely still be a recommendation going into tomorrow. So just a simple little pullback in an IPO, great little pattern of trade. Go back in and watch the last show that I did on IPOs where I discuss a lot of these things. Very exciting market, IPOs. It's an inefficient market, which I'm going to touch upon in just a few minutes, such as altcoins are also an inefficient market. Anyway, profit centers. Profit centers, I've been talking about this quite a bit. They're ancillary profitable techniques, and profitable is a key word in that sentence, and ideally non-correlated to the core methodology. So if you can go in and pick up a few $100 here and there, and let's say the core methodology is not doing fantastic, but then maybe the altcoins are doing really well, or maybe the intraday ETFs or something like that is doing well, or volatile enough to trade, and you can pick up a few $100 here and there, and it kind of helps smooth out the equity curve. And so it could be a technique that's outside of the core methodology, and it could be a technique in an ancillary, some sort of ancillary type of market that's non-correlated. Now, there are some downsides to profit centers, and the biggest one is shiny object syndrome. You must not take your eyes off the prize. The real money is in the core methodology, and that is swing to intermediate term trading. My favorite market to trade, and I think the best market to trade, is stocks, especially if you could flesh out some of these inefficiencies and these momentum stocks. And it doesn't always have to be a thin stock that makes an inefficient type of move or trades in an inefficient manner. By inefficient, I mean it just makes a huge move, such as this CPE in here. As you can see, this is on a hypothetical 100K account, although I do take these actual trades. But you can see at this point in time, this was a snapshot I took from last night, it was up over 400%. So this is where the real money is, trading these stocks, capturing the swing trade, which is the white in here. We're just looking for 1% or around $1,000 per 100K. And then hanging on to the remainder for hopefully, I know that's a dangerous word, hope, but hopefully a long time and making a lot of money in the process. Now, one of the downsides I've been thinking about lately is life is really all about energy management, if you think about it. And a lot of my discussion on energy management that I've been doing lately was inspired by Scott Adams. And the name of the book, I think, is How to Fail at Most Anything and Still Win Big. But anyway, he talked a lot about the importance of managing your energy. And recently, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but recently I got involved with a project and it was absolutely consuming me. And the payoff wasn't going to be that huge, more than likely. And at some point, it just wasn't worth the hassle. And I had to decide, it was a hard decision to pull the plug. Now, bringing that back to trading, a lot of times I'll trade these leveraged ETFs on an intraday basis. I don't want to say day trading because I'm not in and out like the rat going for cocaine. Hopefully, I'm able to put them on fairly early in the morning and ride them all day. Like right now, I'm forcing myself not to watch a screen. I've got stops in place and trailing stops in place over on my trade station, and I'm here on this computer doing this presentation for you guys and girls. Now, anyway, there's been days where I'll actually do okay trading those ETFs, but I'll be absolutely exhausted by the end of the day. My back will be tight, my shoulders will be tight, my neck will hurt, and I'm just absolutely exhausted. So you got to be careful with these things. They can take up a lot of your energy, and trading and life is really all about energy management if you kind of boil it all down. What gives you energy and what takes it away. And if something is taking your energy away, and I think the point I'm trying to get to is, like the aforementioned project, or say I'm exhausted from doing a little bit too much of that intraday trading, borderline day trading, okay, then I might not see opportunities in other markets or nor have enough energy to see those opportunities as they present themselves. So you got to be really, really careful. Now, let's talk a little bit about altcoins before we hop into how to trade them. First thing you need to know is these altcoins are backed by absolutely nothing, just like the US dollar, British pound, and the Zimbabwe $100 trillion notes. I think I've said this before. I bought a bunch of these a while back, and I used to give them out to friends and all, and if it came time to pay for lunch or dinner or whatever, I'd throw a couple out on the table. Little did I know they'd be worth about 10 times or 20 times, or I think 50 times what I paid for them. I think I paid like $1 each. And at some point, I saw they were like $50 each on eBay. They're not worth $50, but they're worth $50 as a collective value, I suppose. So you're probably wondering what these altcoins are. And admittedly, I myself was wondering, what the hell are these things? And what do they do and all this stuff? And then finally it dawned on me, this is the same thing that I did many years ago when I first got into stocks. I was researching the company and earnings and what they do and who their competitors are and all this stuff. And then one day I realized you just have to buy stocks that go up. And if they don't go up, don't buy them. And that's the old Will Rogers saying. But there's a lot of truth to that. In some cases, you can almost do just that, especially in an inefficient market such as IPOs, or an emerging market such as altcoins, it's an emerging market and it's also inefficient. Anyway, don't confuse the issue with facts. And anytime I ever do that in trading, I get into a lot of trouble. Now, the thing to realize is it's truly the wild, wild west when it comes to these altcoins. So don't say that I didn't warn you. I don't make it look like you just go in and make a lot of money in these things. It could be quite a wild ride. And I would encourage you not to trade more than you can afford to lose. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting is the only way to trade these things is to have money on an exchange with a broker, right? And from what I understand, hackers can actually see what money you have in your account, and they work really hard to try to steal that money. Now, this is not the purpose of this presentation. The purpose of the presentation is to show you how I trade them and why I think they're a phenomenal market at this present time, but it's not without a lot of caveats. So I would go in and learn as much as you can about them. Now, one thing to remember too is Yeah, they might all be BS, but as long as they're going up, we could trade them and make money, provided, of course, we're using proper money management, such as taking partial profits along the way, allowing ourselves to stop out, and so on and so forth. I would never throw anybody under the bus, but there's a certain person who somehow I got on his newsletter. Maybe I subscribed, I don't know. But anyway, every day he was like, oh, this crypto Bitcoin is BS. And he would go on and on about how much BS it was. Well, Bitcoin was at 4,000, then it was at 10,000, then it was 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, $60,000. Well, you can make a lot of money in that time, or as I often say, you could pontificate your brilliance. And, maybe someday he's going to be right. And maybe 5 years from now, or maybe 5 months from now, all this will just blow up and he'll go, see, I told you. It's like, well, you could have made a lot of money in the meantime. So practice proper money management, buyer beware, and all the other caveats. The other thing to remember is keep in mind that everything works better with trend. And right now, trend following on altcoins is working really, really well. Now, how should we trade them? Well, basically the same thing you would do with the core methodology, such as TKOs, generic pullbacks, and Landry Light Pullbacks. And I'll explain Landry Light Pullbacks in just one second for those who aren't familiar. And then the other thing you could do is relative strength and breakouts, but that's only in runaway markets. I'm not a big breakout trader. More often than not, breakouts fail, but if you're trading IPOs or some sort of inefficient market, then it can actually work fairly well. So that's one thing to remember. Now, just real briefly, let me give you the rules for Landry Light Pullbacks. Using a 20 or 30-day EMA, you're going to get more signals with the 20 EMA. They might be a little bit less reliable. You're going to get fewer signals, and they're going to be probably a little bit more reliable with the 30 EMA. Right now, the 30 EMA is my favorite when it comes to this pattern, but I will trade generic pullbacks along the way and TKOs, and those are probably going down to kiss the 20-day EMA. But anyway, if you read the layman's guide to trading stocks, I initially called this pattern kiss my goodbye, kiss the moving average goodbye. And back then I was kind of really fascinated with the 20-day EMA, and I'm going to date myself here, but you go back to the mid-90s, I think it was 95 or 96, I published an article in Stocks and Commodities magazine, or they published it, called the 220 EMA breakout system. That's kind of what I'm going to use here for the breakouts away from the moving average, something similar to that. And I'll show you that in just one second. Getting back to Landry Light Pullbacks, ideally you want 10 days of Landry Light. That suggests the market is trending or beginning to trend, and 20 is ideal. Now, here's the thing. You could maybe have fewer than 10 as long as the market is accelerating. And as we go through a few examples, that should come up. The market should pull back to kiss the moving average. In other words, there's no Landry Light, and that'll make a lot more sense on the charts. And you want to look to enter if the trend begins to resume, usually above, let's say, a 2-bar high plus a little wiggle room, depending on where the market closed. But usually, as long as you give it a little wiggle room so you don't get triggered in on noise alone. So let's take a look at Landry Light Pullbacks in Bitcoin. Okay, notice going back in time to last December, it pulled back to tag the 30-day EMA. It was also a TKO. And then again in February, and then again in March. Now, again, everything works better with trend, but when you get a market trending nicely like this, something as simple as a Landry Light pullback. And this always amazes me that in trending markets, how simple trading can really be. I never said it was easy, but it can be fairly simple, and something really simple like this can work well. So Landry Light is just simply lows or greater than the moving average for uptrends. And as long as the low is greater than the moving average, you'll get a green tick down below. And this just counts the number of days, not the magnitude. Okay, it's not measuring how far the low is away, but rather how many days the low has stayed above the moving average. So it's a very nice visual representation down here. Nice Landry Light goes to 0, look to buy. Nice Landry Light goes to 0, look to buy. And this also lends itself well to scanning. And I've gotten a few requests for scans for Landry Light pullbacks, and I was working on one a while back, and I don't know at what stage it's in, but if anybody has a Landry Light pullback scan for StockCharts.com, put it in the comments below, and we'll share it with everybody. And if you're not comfortable with doing that publicly, just feel free to send me an email, davelandry.com/contact, and I'll share it with everyone next week. Okay, so again, they have a breakout characteristic, and one little breakout pattern that you could use is, and I don't have a name for it just yet, but let's say that a market sort of holds that 30-day EMA. Notice below it's mostly green, very little or no red. Okay, in this case you did have, I think, 2 bars of red. And the other thing you want to look at, now this is not going back to this breakout point, this is actually live, but you want to make sure that the coin you're looking at is very high in relative strength. So as I said a few weeks back, if you're looking at these altcoins and there's a lot of green over here and big numbers, then you might be in a momentum market. If it's mostly red and very little green or no green, then obviously you don't want to be trading those pullbacks. You want to wait until the market begins to move. So if you do see a lot of green to the right, you can look to buy the breakout in something like this. And I did play this breakout a while back, and as I call it, the doggy coin, which is a made-up coin, but that's irrelevant. But before I confuse the issue with facts, one thing you could do is just try to stay long the top, let's say 5 coins, okay, and list. And I think you'll do quite well, provided, again, you're in a momentum market. And on top of that, again, maybe look for a breakout away from that EMA or a little box-type breakout like I have illustrated here. All right, let's go altcoin hunting. So here we have the ACP platform. I jumped over to a watch list I created called Cryptocurrencies, and I've got that watch list from Grayson Rose. He did a really good presentation on these altcoins, and like I said, good folks over here were very accommodating and put in 150 altcoins, and I think that's plenty enough. So nothing to do here. This one's sideways at best. Now let me just show you real quick. Let's take a look at the percent change in here. So percent change, we've got quite a few that are pretty high on the list, so it might be worth trading a relative strength market. I am long several of these already. I'm long the doggy coin. I've already taken partial profits on that. Now with the doggy coin, I got in at 30 cents, and I was trading this TKO. Go in and watch prior shows for more on the TKO. Down to the 30 EMA, so that's also a Landry Light Pullback, as you can see down here. Or just look at the chart and see the nice little gap, so to speak, above the moving average, a Landry Light, and then a pullback to the moving average. I'm also long ETC at this particular point in time. I think I have a little bit of wave just simply because it was going up. But I've been long ETC for a while from the pullback, and then since it's continuing to move higher, on a relative strength basis, I remain long. Also, I remain long ETC/BTC. Okay, that's Ethereum Classic versus Bitcoin. I think I might still have some Ethereum versus Bitcoin left. Now, let's start going through these and see what we could find. Obviously, that's headed lower, nothing there. Now, this one's mostly sideways. Maybe if it begins to rally, it could be breakout worthy, but for the most part, it's sideways. Another sideways market. What's interesting is these things look fantastic yesterday, and today, not as much. Anytime I go to do a presentation, it's funny how fast markets can change. ALPH, whatever the hell that is, alpha, mostly sideways, as you can see. Mostly sideways for ANKR. Now, here's one that's kind of interesting, at least longer term. And again, the pattern, Landry Light Pullbacks, nice green here. It goes to 0. You tag the moving average. You look to get long as that trend resumes, and you can see there's been a couple of nice little Landry Light Pullbacks along the way. And as you look at charts, just go back and go in and look towards the left. And if you find a broker let you trade off the left side of the chart, let me know. And see if you can see some of these patterns. Of course, try to see them in real time, but also go back in time to see how it may have worked. Now, Bitcoin Cash looks kind of interesting in that you could see we had a nice little Landry Light here, nice little pullback to the moving average, and then so far a little bit of a trend continuation higher. And down here, you can look at the Landry Light, and you can see the little pullback in the Landry Light. Now, one thing I didn't address is, and I haven't fully wrapped my head around, is some of these can be a little thin, so you do have to pay attention to volume. And one other thing too is this one right here, Best, whatever the hell that is, it's not in any brokerage that I currently have, and I have 3 brokerages. Now here's one that's been trending nicely. In a case like this, you can see it did lose a little steam coming into its moving average. So ideally, you want to see the market do this and do this into its moving average to suggest that the momentum is there, and then you get the pullback, of course. But in a case like this kind of becomes like a bit of a box like we talked about earlier, okay? Into that moving average, you had all green. So then maybe look for a breakout if and only if, and right here would be a good entry there. But if and only if the relative strength over here was very strong. And all you have to do is sort, again, by this percent change, and that's going to give you the relative strength. Now here's Bitcoin. Everybody wants to know about Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin's lost some momentum, as you can see. And if you don't know anything about markets, take a look at net price change. Where is it now and where was it a few months ago? And then draw a line best you can. Or come over here and grab one of these drawing tools. Draw a horizontal line. So Bitcoin certainly lost some steam as of late. So there's nothing that needs to be done as far as trading Bitcoin. Now this one looks pretty good. And the reason I like it is it's trending very nicely. And you can see that we've had Landry Light for a long time. You can see the green down here. In fact, we've had 40 days where it hasn't touched the EMA. So I would look for either a TKO, like a sharp move lower like this, and ideally all the way down to that 30 EMA. So you definitely want to have this one on your radar. Now, this has been trending nicely. As you can see, little Landry Light pullback here. You'd still be long based on that setup. So far, so good. Back here was a Landry Light pullback. Really didn't trigger. It started going sideways. Even if you did trigger in, a stop well below the EMA may have kept you in. And then again, you could wait for momentum to improve and look to play a breakout once you see that sideways movement around that 30-day EMA. One point that I may have failed to explain is with the breakouts, you want to see them relatively stronger longer term. So if you're playing relative strength, and we've got these sorted by relative strength, and something like Doggy Coin comes up, yeah, it's up here at new highs, and if a lot of other markets are doing well, then by all means, go for it. Or back here, you can see it's at least mostly holding that 30 EMA as discussed earlier, so maybe that might be worth a shot. I would not bottom fish in these things, is what I'm trying to say. You want to see some sort of momentum behind you, even if you're playing that breakout pattern. And so we can see that right now there's quite a few of these things have lost momentum and lost steam, so we might just want to sit on our hands for a while. This is Ethereum Classic. This thing, when this thing goes, it really goes. And again, you should be able to see, if you don't get excited about this, then I don't know what's going to excite you about trading. But anyway, you can see back here, we had a nice little breakout away from that moving average after consolidating, trading sideways for a while. We had a nice little pullback here. Notice that we didn't quite get all the way to the 30 EMA, but I think that's close enough. And if we put a 20 EMA, I'm sure it tagged it. And in a case like this is a pattern called a trend pivot pullback. You get a little fake out, begins to pull back, a little fake out higher. And sometimes those could be the best trades. You get in, look to get in above that high. So in this case, the entry would have been here. Obviously a little aggressive, more aggressive entry would have been a little lower, but so far, so good. I am long this particular one. Ethereum looks good. You can see you had little Landry Light pullback back here. Nice little run higher if you're playing a relative strength game. So far, so good. Fairly high still in relative strength today, obviously notwithstanding. So you can see as I go through a lot of these that I'm just kind of flipping through quickly. Reason I'm not getting too excited is because they're going mostly sideways. Look at this one, okay? It's at around 30, 31, 32. Go back in time to March. Where was it? 31, 32. Nothing to get excited about there. We are trend followers, okay? Believe in what we see and not in what we believe. Now, this is kind of interesting in that it accelerated from its moving average, and then it has a bit of a knockout bar. So this might be worth a shot. Let's say 27.50, maybe a little bit higher for an entry on that one. And that would be great if we were in a momentum market. In other words, if you had a lot of green over here, and it was one of the top green ones. Now, this one looks kind of interesting. You had a base breakout, and now you got a little bit of a pullback back to the 30 EMA, close enough. I think this would be worth a shot based on the magnitude of this breakout. This was a huge breakout here. Nice little pullback, but only on a trigger somewhere above this high might be a good place to take a look at that one. Now, this was mostly sideways as of late. You probably would have triggered into a Landry Light Pullback if you're trading that. And again, here's that little pattern once again, this little base breakout that's held above the 30 EMA. And this is something that I think might be worth exploring a lot further because you've got a longer term trend in place, you've got a consolidation, and then you're looking for that base breakout. And again, a lot of times breakouts fail, but in inefficient markets and emerging markets and Bitcoin and crypto, altcoins I should say, or both of those things, it could be worth a shot. And again, that's especially true, not to beat the dead horse, but that's especially true when you're in a momentum market. Right now, again, we're not in a momentum market, but if you start seeing a lot of green on the right, then it might be worth, again, a shot going after some of those breakouts. This is looking kind of interesting. You got a nice breakout away from the moving average. I did play this one recently when it did this little breakout. We were in a momentum market then, and now it's pulling back a little bit, but so far still looks pretty darn good. This one looks kind of interesting. At least it did a while back. Nice little pullback. Almost kissed the moving average, but close enough for government work. And then so far it's trying to rally it from that today notwithstanding. People often ask me, how can I go through so many charts a day? I look at about 2,000 charts a day, and that's probably a fairly conservative number. And as you can see, this would be a lot quicker if I wasn't running so many different things on this computer and doing all this recording and major media processing. But even by waiting a second or so in between charts, as you can see, I could still go through a plethora of charts really quick. So again, you should get excited about this, seeing this pattern repeat over and over. Nice Landry Light, nice pullback to the EMA, and so far today notwithstanding, once again, nice little rally out. This is one of my favorites. I try not to have any favorites, but one reason I like this one is it can really trend nicely, and when it goes, it goes. And you can see nice Landry Light here, nice acceleration higher, nice little pullback to the 30 EMA. And then so far, longer term uptrend remains intact on that one. I think I'm still long that one from that last Landry Light pullback. You'll notice most of those breakouts did happen during the middle of March, and that was a great time in crypto. And there's going to be plenty of other great times, though. I feel fairly confident about that. But if they don't go up, so what? No capital, again, gets put into harm's way. Whenever I give a speech in person, I asked if anyone is a musician in the audience, and usually by law of averages, one or more people will raise their hands. And I'll ask them, how'd you get good? And they're like, well, I practice, duh, implied. Anyway, if you want to get good at technical analysis, if you want to get good at charting, look at a lot of charts. And these patterns should begin to jump out at you. Look at this. Landry Light pullback. How beautiful is that? Landry Light pullback, also a TKO right here. Okay, you may or may not have triggered in with a liberal entry, but you kind of get the idea. And if you do see a big move in a chart, ask yourself, could I, or more importantly, should I have caught that move? And that's known as deliberate practice. You're not only practicing by looking at these charts, you're working to get better and better at recognizing the patterns and making sure that next time something sets up, you're in it. This one looks really good. I think I'm still long this one. Nice little uptrend here. So as it pulls back, it'll be worth a shot for a new position. Zcash, I am long this market. Not doing so great today. But as you can see, nice little textbook Landry Light setup. And okay so far. I think I'm slightly in the black on that one. So that's all my time for this week. Again, if you want the slides from this presentation and all the other presentations, davelandry.com/StockCharts. I'll also give you, again, all three of my books in PDF format. Get to know me first. And in addition to that, you'll have limited access to the members area. If you need to reach me, davelandry.com/contact. I want to thank everybody for watching, and may the trend be with you.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.